"Stop drinking that, you will heal," whispered the young woman, trembling with fear before the motionless millionaire. Minutes later, something began to change, and he felt that there was something very wrong with everything he had lived until then. While the house remained silent, she knew she had stirred forces she could no longer ignore. What seemed like an innocent warning would be the spark of a revelation capable of destroying lives. If this story interested you, don't forget to subscribe to our channel and tell us what city you're watching us from. We'll keep going. The imposing iron gates of the Mitchell estate parted slowly, revealing a sprawling mansion nestled among the lush greenery of Greenwich, Connecticut. From the outside, Oakwood Manor appeared to be the quintessential symbol of American success, a testament to Ethan Mitchell's brilliance in the world of technology innovation. But for 5 years now, these same walls that once hosted lavish charity galas and cutting-edge tech demonstrations had become Ethan's gilded prison. At 42, Ethan Mitchell had been at the pinnacle of his career when a devastating construction site accident left him paralyzed from the waist down. The man who once commanded boardrooms with his powerful presence was now confined to a wheelchair, his once vibrant life reduced to carefully scheduled medications, physical therapy sessions that showed minimal progress, and the watchful eyes of his fiancée, Olivia Sinclair. "Good morning, my love." Olivia's voice carried the practiced sweetness that had become her signature as she entered Ethan's bedroom. Her perfectly manicured hands adjusted his pillows with the efficiency of someone who had performed this routine countless times. "Did you sleep well? I've prepared your morning supplements." Ethan nodded silently, watching as Olivia meticulously arranged his pills in a small porcelain dish. At 36, she was still strikingly beautiful, with honey blonde hair that fell in soft waves around her shoulders and emerald eyes that seemed to miss nothing. She had been by his side throughout his ordeal, sacrificing her own promising career in pharmaceutical sales to become his full-time caretaker. "You're an angel," Ethan murmured, swallowing the cocktail of medications without question. This was their ritual, her devotion, his gratitude, a cycle that had defined their relationship since the accident. "You know I'd do anything for you," she replied, her smile not quite reaching her eyes. "The new housekeeper will be starting today. I've already briefed her on your schedule and dietary restrictions." Ethan frowned slightly. "What happened to Mrs. Rodriguez?" Olivia's expression remained unchanged. "She needed to care for her ailing mother in Arizona. Very sudden, I'm afraid. But I've found someone suitable to replace her. A young woman named Lily Carson. She comes highly recommended." Before Ethan could ask further questions, a wave of fatigue washed over him, a familiar sensation that typically followed his morning medication. His eyelids grew heavy as Olivia continued to speak about the day's schedule, her voice becoming increasingly distant as he drifted into a foggy state of semi-consciousness. Across the estate, 26-year-old Lily Carson followed the head housekeeper, Mrs. Thompson, through the labyrinthine corridors of Oakwood Manor. With her chestnut hair pulled back in a practical ponytail and dressed in simple black slacks and a white blouse, Lily tried to maintain a professional demeanor, despite being overwhelmed by the grandeur surrounding her. "You'll be responsible for the East Wing, including Mr. Mitchell's private study, though he rarely uses it these days," Mrs. Thompson explained, her tone businesslike. "Miss Sinclair prefers everything to be immaculate. She's very particular about Mr. Mitchell's environment, says it's essential for his recovery." "I understand," Lily nodded, mentally mapping the layout of the mansion. This job was a significant step up from her previous position at the local hotel, and the salary would help support her mother, who had recently been laid off from her factory job. "How is Mr. Mitchell's health?" she ventured cautiously. Mrs. Thompson's pace faltered slightly. "That's not our concern," she replied curtly. "Miss Sinclair handles all matters related to Mr. Mitchell's condition. She has a strict protocol for his care, and we respect her authority. Remember that, Miss Carson." The warning in the older woman's voice was unmistakable, making Lily wonder what unseen boundaries she had already crossed. As they continued the tour, Lily noticed the mansion's contradictions. Despite its opulence, there was a stillness to the place, an absence of life that made the grand rooms feel hollow. Later that afternoon, while dusting the bookshelves in the corridor outside Ethan's room, Lily overheard a conversation that made her pause. "His platelet counts are stable, but I'm concerned about the persistent muscle atrophy," a male voice stated clinically, presumably one of Ethan's doctors. "Dr. Whitaker, "I assure you, I'm following your regimen to the letter," Olivia's voice replied, the sweetness now replaced with a steely edge. "Perhaps if your treatments were more effective, we'd see improvement." "Ms. Sinclair, with all due respect, I've recommended consulting with specialists at Mayo Clinic. Mr. Mitchell's condition is unusual. The lack of progress despite our aggressive therapy suggests there might be underlying factors we haven't identified. I won't have Ethan subjected to more poking and prodding by doctors who don't understand his case history." Olivia's voice hardened. "Besides, he's not strong enough for travel." "That's precisely what concerns me," Dr. Whitaker persisted. "His general weakness seems disproportionate to his actual injury. 5 years post-accident, we should be seeing more strength returning to his upper body at minimum. Are you questioning my care, doctor?" The dangerous undercurrent in Olivia's tone made Lily's skin prickle. "No, I'm simply advocating for my patient. Perhaps we could adjust his medication. The current cocktail might be causing some of these side effects." "Absolutely not. The medication regimen took months to perfect. Changing it now could devastate his progress." Their voices moved closer to the door, prompting Lily to resume her dusting, heart pounding. As they emerged, Dr. Whitaker nodded politely in her direction before Olivia escorted him down the hallway, her posture rigid with barely contained frustration. When they disappeared around the corner, Lily exhaled slowly. Something about the exchange felt wrong, though she couldn't pinpoint exactly what. She had taken this job out of financial necessity, but now curiosity began to stir within her. What was happening behind the closed doors of this magnificent house? And why did Olivia Sinclair seem so resistant to changes in Ethan's treatment? As the days passed, Lily became increasingly aware of the mansion's strange rhythms. Ethan would appear alert and engaged in the mornings, particularly before breakfast. By mid-morning, after Olivia administered his supplements, he would become drowsy and disoriented. This pattern repeated after lunch and dinner, creating a man who existed in brief windows of lucidity between long stretches of medicated fog. Even more troubling were the security measures Olivia had implemented. Cameras monitored every entrance and hallway. The medicine cabinet in Ethan's bathroom remained locked at all times, with only Olivia possessing the key. Staff were prohibited from entering certain areas without explicit permission, particularly the room where Ethan's medications were prepared. One evening, nearly 2 weeks into her employment, Lily was collecting laundry when she heard Ethan's voice from his partially open door, clearer and stronger than she had ever heard it before. "I don't understand why I feel worse after taking those supplements," he was saying. "Before them, my mind feels sharper than it has in years." "That's just your perception, darling," Olivia replied soothingly. "The medications take time to build up in your system. The initial clarity you feel is actually a symptom of your condition. Trust me, and trust Dr. Whitaker. We only want what's best for your recovery." As Lily moved quietly past the door, she caught a glimpse of Ethan's face, and for a brief moment, their eyes met. In that fleeting connection, she saw something that haunted her throughout the night. Doubt, confusion, and beneath it all, a silent plea for help. The following morning, Lily arrived earlier than usual, hoping to observe the household before Olivia's rigid schedule took effect. The mansion was quiet as she slipped through the service entrance, the soft glow of dawn barely illuminating the kitchen, where she found Mrs. Thompson already preparing Ethan's breakfast tray. "You're early," the older woman remarked, her eyebrows raising slightly. "Couldn't sleep," Lily offered with a smile. "Thought I might as well make myself useful." Mrs. Thompson nodded, seemingly satisfied with the explanation. "Since you're here, you can take this up to Mr. Mitchell. Miss Sinclair is taking her morning swim in the indoor pool. She likes to exercise before he wakes." Lily's heart quickened. This was an unexpected opportunity to speak with Ethan alone. "Of course," she replied, carefully lifting the tray laden with fresh fruit, toast, and a carafe of orange juice. As she made her way through the winding corridors, Lily's mind raced. What exactly was she doing? Suspicion wasn't evidence, and she had a job to protect. Still, the strange patterns she had observed over the past 2 weeks nagged at her conscience. She knocked softly on Ethan's door. "Come in," his voice called, stronger than she had expected. When she entered, Lily was struck by the transformation. Sitting up in bed, his dark hair slightly tousled and his blue eyes alert, Ethan Mitchell looked remarkably different from the drowsy figure she usually glimpsed being wheeled through the house. Without the fog of medication, his handsome features were animated, his gaze sharp and intelligent. "You're not Olivia," he stated, surprise evident in his tone. "No, sir. I'm Lily Carson, one of the new housekeepers. Mrs. Thompson asked me to bring your breakfast. Miss Sinclair is swimming." Ethan nodded, a flicker of something relief crossing his face. "So I have a few minutes of peace before the daily regimen begins." The bitterness in his voice emboldened Lily. "Your breakfast, sir," she said, placing the tray on the bedside table. Then, keeping her voice low, she added, "You seemed concerned about your supplements yesterday." Ethan's expression immediately tensed. "You overheard that?" "I didn't mean to eavesdrop," Lily admitted. "But yes, I did. And I've noticed patterns since I started working here." "What kind of patterns?" His voice was guarded, but his eyes held a desperate intensity that compelled her to continue. "You're different in the mornings, before your first round of medication. More alert, more present. Then after each dose you become—" She hesitated, searching for a respectful term. "A zombie," he finished flatly. "I've started to notice it too. Moments of clarity followed by hours of fog. But Olivia insists it's part of my condition, a side effect of the nerve damage." Lily glanced nervously at the door before continuing. "Mr. Mitchell, I don't know much about medicine, but my mother was a nurse's aide for 20 years. Medication is supposed to help, not make you worse." Ethan's hands clenched the bedsheet. "What are you suggesting?" Before Lily could respond, footsteps echoed in the hallway. She quickly adjusted the breakfast tray and stepped back into a professional stance just as Olivia entered, her hair still damp from her swim, wrapped in an expensive silk robe. "Lily, isn't it?" Olivia's tone was pleasant, but her eyes were cool as they assessed the situation. "Thank you for bringing Ethan's breakfast, but in the future, please remember that I prefer to handle his morning routine personally." "Yes, Miss Sinclair, I apologize for the confusion." "No harm done," Olivia smiled, the expression not reaching her eyes. "That will be all." Dismissed, Lily had no choice but to leave, feeling Ethan's gaze follow her to the door. As she closed it behind her, she heard Olivia's voice switch to the honeyed tone she reserved for her fiancé. "Now, darling, let's get your morning supplements ready. You know how important it is to stay on schedule." Throughout the day, Lily found herself assigned to the west wing of the mansion, far from Ethan's quarters. The message was clear. Olivia had noticed something and was keeping her at a distance. Yet this only strengthened Lily's resolve to understand what was happening at Oakwood Manor. During her lunch break, Lily retreated to the small staff room where she found her mother, Eleanor Carson, sorting linens. At 52, Eleanor had the same warm brown eyes as her daughter, though years of hard work had etched fine lines around them. She had been working at the estate for 3 weeks, having started just before Lily. "You look troubled," Eleanor observed once they were alone. Lily hesitated before confiding her concerns in a hushed voice. "Mum, something's not right with Mr. Mitchell's treatment. I think Miss Sinclair might be medicating him unnecessarily, keeping him sedated and confused." Eleanor's expression grew serious. "That's a serious accusation, Lily. What evidence do you have?" "Nothing concrete," Lily admitted. "Just observations. The pattern of his alertness before medication and his deterioration afterward. The way she controls every aspect of his care. The locked medicine room. The revolving door of staff who ask too many questions. Like the night nurse who was fired last week for suggesting a second opinion," Eleanor added thoughtfully. "Or the physical therapist who questioned why Mr. Mitchell seemed to regress after each session rather than improve." Lily stared at her mother. "You've noticed too?" Eleanor nodded slowly. "This isn't my first wealthy household, Lily. I've seen marriages of convenience, trophy wives, power struggles. But this feels different, more calculated. What should we do? We can't prove anything, and it's her word against ours. She's the respected fiancé, we're just the help." "For now, we observe and document," Eleanor advised. "Keep track of patterns, times, behaviors, and be careful, Lily. If your suspicions are correct, Miss Sinclair isn't someone to cross lightly." Later that afternoon, while cleaning the library, Lily discovered something that made her blood run cold. Hidden behind a row of leather-bound classics was a small notebook. Curiosity piqued, she opened it to find handwritten notes in cramped, urgent handwriting. "Something wrong with E's meds. Checked bottles in cabinet when O was out. Labels don't match contents. Need to investigate further. The entry was dated 3 months ago and signed simply JM. The pages that followed were blank, as if the writer had never returned to continue their documentation. Lily's hands trembled as she slipped the notebook into her pocket. Who was JM, and what had happened to them after making this discovery? The answer came unexpectedly that evening. While sorting through a box of household records in the storage room, Lily found employee files, including one for James Morrison, a night nurse terminated 3 months prior for failure to follow prescribed protocols. His employee photo showed a serious-faced man in his 30s with kind eyes and a determined set to his jaw. The pieces were beginning to fit together, forming a disturbing picture. How many others had noticed something amiss in Ethan's care only to be dismissed or worse? As Lily was replacing the files, the storage room door suddenly opened. Olivia stood in the doorway, her slender figure silhouetted against the hallway light. "Lily," she said, her voice dangerously soft. "What an unusual place to find you at this hour." "Just organizing the storage area, Miss Sinclair," Lily replied, struggling to keep her voice steady. "Mrs. Thompson mentioned it needed attention." Olivia stepped into the room, her gaze sweeping over the open boxes. "How dedicated of you. Tell me, are you enjoying your position here at Oakwood Manor?" "Very much, thank you." "Good." Olivia smiled, the expression reminiscent of a predator assessing its prey. "I value loyal staff who understand the importance of discretion and respect for boundaries. Not everyone appreciates the delicate nature of managing a household centered around a person with Mr. Mitchell's complex medical needs." The threat beneath her words was unmistakable. "I understand completely, Miss Sinclair." "I'm glad we understand each other." Olivia turned to leave, then paused. "Oh, and Lily, if you find any misplaced items during your organizing, I trust you'll bring them directly to me." After Olivia left, Lily remained frozen in place, the notebook burning in her pocket like a brand. She had just entered a dangerous game with a formidable opponent, one who had been playing it far longer and with much higher stakes. That night, after sharing her discoveries with her mother, Lily made a decision. Whatever was happening to Ethan Mitchell, she couldn't simply look the other way. Whether Olivia was keeping him unnecessarily medicated for control, for his money, or for some other unfathomable reason, the truth needed to come to light. "Be careful," Eleanor warned again. "People with wealth and power can make problems disappear, including people who create those problems." "I know," Lily acknowledged, "but I also know I couldn't live with myself if something happened to him, and I did nothing." As she lay in bed that night in the modest apartment she shared with her mother, Lily stared at the ceiling, turning over everything she had learned. Tomorrow, somehow, she would find a way to speak with Ethan alone again, to share her suspicions and perhaps help him begin to question the carefully constructed reality Olivia had built around him. What Lily couldn't know was that across Greenwich, in the master bathroom of Oakwood Manor, Olivia was carefully measuring a clear liquid into Ethan's morning supplement bottle, her reflection in the mirror revealing a cold determination that belied her carefully cultivated image of the devoted caregiver. As she recapped the bottle, she whispered to her reflection, "Just a little longer, and everything he has will be mine forever." For 3 days, Lily found herself strategically separated from Ethan's quarters. Olivia had rearranged the household staff schedule, ensuring Lily was assigned to the most distant parts of the estate during Ethan's waking hours. The message was clear. Whatever Olivia had sensed during their brief interaction had put Lily on her radar. "She knows something's up," Lily whispered to her mother as they folded laundry in the utility room. "I can feel her watching me. Yesterday, I caught her scrolling through the security footage from the cameras in the hallways." Eleanor nodded grimly. "Thomas in maintenance mentioned that Miss Sinclair asked him to install additional cameras near the medicine room and Mr. Mitchell's study. She told him it was for Ethan's safety, but it feels more like she's creating a surveillance state." "Have you managed to learn anything more about his medication?" Lily asked. "Only that it comes in unmarked bottles that Miss Sinclair transfers to prescription containers herself. Mrs. Thompson says even Dr. Whitaker doesn't handle the actual medications. He provides the prescriptions, but Miss Sinclair insists on filling them through a specialty pharmacy in New York." This information only deepened Lily's unease. Whatever Olivia was giving Ethan likely wasn't what his doctor had prescribed, but proving it would be nearly impossible without access to the actual substances. On the 4th morning, fate intervened. Olivia received an urgent call that pulled her away from the estate, something about an issue with one of Ethan's investment properties in Manhattan that required her immediate attention as his power of attorney. "I'll be back by evening," she informed Mrs. Thompson crisply. "Ethan's medications are prepared and labeled in the usual place. Make sure he takes the blue pill with breakfast, the white tablet at noon, and the liquid supplement before his afternoon physical therapy. No deviations." From her position dusting the foyer, Lily watched Olivia's sleek BMW disappear down the driveway. This was the opportunity she'd been waiting for. When Mrs. Thompson was called away to deal with a delivery at the service entrance, Lily seized her chance. She hurried to the kitchen, where Ethan's breakfast tray waited, complete with a small pill cup containing a pale blue capsule. With a quick glance around to ensure she was alone, Lily pocketed the pill and replaced it with a vitamin C tablet from her pocket that looked remarkably similar. Her heart hammering, she then made her way to Ethan's room under the pretense of delivering fresh towels. When she knocked, his voice, clearer than usual this time of day, invited her in. "Good morning, Mr. Mitchell," she said, setting down the towels in the bathroom before approaching his bed. "Miss Sinclair had to go to Manhattan this morning. She asked me to check if you needed anything." Ethan regarded her with a mixture of surprise and wariness. "Did she now? That doesn't sound like Olivia." Lily smiled. "No, she didn't. I wanted to speak with you privately, and this seemed like the only opportunity I'd get." A glimmer of appreciation showed in his eyes. "Honest, I like that. What's so important that you're risking your job to tell me?" Lily took a deep breath. "Mr. Mitchell, I believe your fiancé has been deliberately medicating you to keep you weak and dependent. I've observed the patterns, how alert you are before your medications, and how quickly you deteriorate afterward. It's not normal, and it's not consistent with typical treatment for spinal injuries." Ethan's face remained impassive, but his knuckles whitened as he gripped the bedsheet. "That's an extraordinary claim, Miss Carson." "I know how it sounds," she acknowledged, "but I found a notebook belonging to a night nurse who was fired after questioning your medication. And my mother, who works here too, has noticed staff being dismissed whenever they raise concerns about your care." She reached into her pocket and withdrew the small notebook she'd discovered. "This belonged to James Morrison. He suspected the labels on your medication bottles didn't match their contents." Ethan took the notebook with a trembling hand, quickly scanning the sparse entries. Something flickered in his eyes. A spark of recognition, perhaps, or the awakening of long-suppressed doubts. "James was good to me," he said softly. "He disappeared so suddenly. Olivia said he took a better position at a hospital in Boston." "He was fired, Mr. Mitchell. The records are in the storage room files." Ethan closed his eyes, his breathing uneven. "Do you have any proof beyond observations and this notebook?" "Not yet," Lily admitted, "but today gives us a chance. I switched your morning pill with a vitamin. If I'm wrong, you'll feel no different today. If I'm right..." "If you're right, I should feel more alert than usual," Ethan finished, a dangerous edge to his voice. "You took quite a risk." "Someone needed to," Lily said simply. Ethan studied her face, as if searching for hidden motives. "Why do you care what happens to me? You barely know me." The question caught Lily off guard. Why did she care? She'd been working at Oakwood Manor for less than a month. Ethan Mitchell was her employer, a wealthy man far removed from her world. Yet something about his situation had awakened a fierce protectiveness in her that she couldn't explain. "Because it's wrong," she finally said, "and because I saw something in your eyes that day, a person trapped not just by physical limitations, but by something more insidious. No one deserves that, regardless of who they are." Ethan nodded slowly, seeming to accept her answer. "What do you suggest we do now?" "First, we wait to see how you feel today without your usual morning dose. Then, if you're willing, I can help you investigate further. We need concrete evidence of what's in those medications." Their conversation was interrupted by a knock at the door. Mrs. Thompson entered with Ethan's breakfast tray. "Good morning, Mr. Mitchell. I see Lily has brought your towels," she noted with a pointed look at Lily. "Thank you, Lily. You can return to your regular duties now." As Lily left the room, she caught Ethan's gaze one last time, a silent acknowledgement of their dangerous alliance. Throughout the morning, Lily found excuses to pass by Ethan's study, where he had asked to be wheeled after breakfast. Each time, she noted with growing excitement that he remained alert and engaged, reviewing business documents with a clarity he hadn't exhibited in years. By early afternoon, the difference was remarkable. Ethan insisted on attending a video conference with his company's board of directors, something Olivia had been handling on his behalf for months, claiming he wasn't well enough to participate. Mrs. Thompson appeared increasingly flustered by Ethan's unusual vigor. "Perhaps you should rest, Mr. Mitchell," she suggested during a break in his meetings. "Miss Sinclair was very clear about your schedule today." "I'm feeling unusually well, Mrs. Thompson," Ethan replied with a smile that didn't quite reach his eyes. "Must be the change in weather. Or perhaps it's simply time I started reclaiming my life." At noon, when his white tablet was due, Ethan quietly disposed of it, while Mrs. Thompson wasn't looking. By mid-afternoon, when Lily managed to speak with him briefly while delivering documents to his study, the transformation was undeniable. "I haven't felt this clear-headed in years," he murmured, keeping his voice low. "It's like emerging from a fog I didn't even know I was lost in. All this time I thought my mental confusion was from the accident." "What will you do when Miss Sinclair returns?" Lily asked. Ethan's expression hardened. "Nothing, for now. If what you suspect is true, confronting her without proof would be dangerous. She'd simply deny everything and increase her vigilance, or worse, get rid of both of us. We need to secure a sample of whatever she's been giving you," Lily suggested. "Something that can be tested independently." "Agreed, but we need to be careful. Olivia is," he hesitated, "methodical. She leaves nothing to chance." The sound of approaching footsteps forced them to end their conversation. As Lily turned to leave, Ethan caught her wrist, his touch gentle but urgent. "Thank you," he said simply, "for seeing what I couldn't or wouldn't see." Something unspoken passed between them in that moment, a connection that transcended their different worlds and circumstances. Lily felt a flush creep up her neck as she nodded and slipped from the room. For the remainder of the afternoon, Ethan continued his remarkable revival, speaking with a series of business associates and even consulting with his attorney about updating some documents, calls that Olivia had been screening and often handling herself. The household staff exchanged puzzled glances at this sudden change, but no one dared question it directly. As evening approached, tension mounted within the mansion. Olivia would be returning soon, and with her, the carefully constructed routine that had kept Ethan subdued for years. Lily managed one final moment alone with him before retreating to her regular duties. "She'll expect you to be in your usual state when she returns," Lily warned. "If you suddenly seem different, she'll know something's changed." Ethan nodded grimly. "I'll have to pretend, act drowsy and confused. It won't be difficult. I've had 5 years of observing myself through the haze of whatever she's been giving me." His jaw tightened. "But knowing I'm acting rather than actually being drugged makes all the difference in the world." "Be careful," Lily urged. "And whatever happens, don't take anything she gives you tonight. Find a way to dispose of it without her noticing." Just as dusk was settling over the estate, the sound of Olivia's car on the gravel driveway sent the household staff into their well-rehearsed positions. Lily retreated to the laundry room, her mind racing with the day's revelations and the dangerous game they had now begun. From her position, she couldn't see Olivia's reunion with Ethan, but she could imagine it. His feigned lethargy, her satisfied smile, the careful administration of evening medications that would normally ensure his continued docility through the night. What Lily couldn't have anticipated was Olivia's reaction to the subtle changes a single day without medication had wrought. Even with Ethan's careful play-acting, something was different. A clarity in his eyes, perhaps, or a firmness in his voice that months of chemical suppression had muted. As Lily was preparing to leave for the night, Mrs. Thompson approached her with a tense expression. "Miss Sinclair would like to see you in her study immediately." Lily's stomach dropped, but she maintained a neutral expression. "Of course." As she made her way to Olivia's private study, Lily steeled herself for whatever confrontation awaited. Had Olivia somehow discovered the switched pill? Had Ethan's performance not been convincing enough? Or was this simply another attempt to intimidate her, to reinforce the boundaries Lily had so deliberately crossed? When she entered the wood-paneled room, Olivia was standing by the window, backlit by the garden lights, her posture radiating controlled anger. "Close the door, Lily," she commanded without turning around. "I think it's time we had a proper conversation about your role in this household." Lily closed the door, her heart pounding as she faced Olivia's rigid silhouette against the window. The study felt oppressively small, lined with leather-bound books that Lily suspected were chosen for appearance rather than content, much like Olivia's carefully crafted persona of the devoted fiancé. "Miss Sinclair, you wanted to see me?" Lily kept her voice steady, determined not to show fear. Olivia turned slowly, her emerald eyes calculating as they assessed Lily. "You've been quite attentive to Ethan today. Mrs. Thompson tells me you visited his room several times." "I was just doing my job," Lily replied, "delivering fresh towels, bringing documents as requested." "Interesting," Olivia's manicured fingers traced the edge of her desk. "Because Ethan seems unusually energetic this evening, almost like himself from before the accident. You wouldn't know anything about that, would you?" The accusation hung in the air between them. Lily knew she was walking a dangerous line, but she also recognized that Olivia had no proof, only suspicion. "I wouldn't know what Mr. Mitchell was like before his accident," Lily answered truthfully. "I've only known him as he is now." Olivia's smile didn't reach her eyes. "Let me be direct, Lily. I reviewed the security footage today. You spent nearly 10 minutes in Ethan's room this morning, far longer than a towel delivery requires. What did you discuss with him?" Lily hadn't anticipated the cameras. A critical oversight, she thought quickly. "He asked me about my background, why I came to work here. Just casual conversation. How interesting that after 5 years of minimal interaction with the staff, Ethan suddenly develops an interest in your life story." Olivia moved closer, her expensive perfume enveloping Lily like a suffocating cloud. "Let me make something perfectly clear. Ethan's medical regimen is delicate and precise. Any disruption to his routine could have serious consequences for his health." "I understand that, Miss Sinclair." "Do you? Because interfering with someone's medical care is not only grounds for immediate termination, but could be considered criminal." Olivia's voice dropped to a threatening whisper. "I've dedicated 5 years of my life to Ethan's well-being, 5 years of sacrifice while managing his business interests, maintaining this estate, and ensuring he receives the best care money can buy. I won't allow a housekeeper with no medical training to jeopardize his recovery based on, what? Curiosity? Misplaced concern?" Lily met Olivia's gaze directly. "I would never do anything to harm Mr. Mitchell." "I'm glad we understand each other." Olivia stepped back, her composure returning. "Because I would hate to see someone with your potential lose such an opportunity. Your mother seems to be thriving here as well, doesn't she? It would be unfortunate if both of you had to seek employment elsewhere, with references that might make future employment difficult to secure." The threat was unmistakable. Olivia was leveraging not just Lily's job, but her mother's as well. "That won't be necessary," Lily assured her, swallowing her anger. "I know my place, Miss Sinclair." "Excellent." Olivia walked to the door and opened it, signaling the end of their conversation. "Oh, and Lily, tomorrow you'll be reassigned to the guest cottages on the far side of the property. I think some distance from the main house would be beneficial for everyone." Banished to the periphery of the estate, Lily realized with dismay, far from Ethan and unable to continue their investigation. "As you wish, Miss Sinclair." As Lily left the mansion that night, the weight of Olivia's threats pressed heavily on her shoulders. Not only had she failed to secure any concrete evidence, but she'd also potentially made Ethan's situation worse by raising Olivia's suspicions. Tomorrow he would undoubtedly be watched even more closely, his medication administered with heightened vigilance. "How did it go?" Eleanor asked when Lily arrived at their small apartment, her face etched with concern. Lily sank onto their worn sofa and recounted her confrontation with Olivia. "She's reassigning me to the guest cottages tomorrow. She knows something's happening even if she can't prove what." Eleanor frowned. "She's isolating you, cutting off access to Mr. Mitchell. This confirms our suspicions. She's hiding something significant. But what can we do now? She's watching me too closely. If I make another move, she'll fire both of us, and then we'll have no way to help Ethan at all." Eleanor was quiet for a moment, her expression thoughtful. "Perhaps we need to approach this differently. Instead of trying to gather evidence ourselves, we need to empower Ethan to take control of his own situation." "What do you mean?" "Olivia's power comes from keeping Ethan dependent, physically, emotionally, and informationally. Today you showed him he could feel better without the medications. That's step 1. Step 2 is giving him the tools to investigate on his own." Lily's mind raced with possibilities. He mentioned he's going to start refusing the medication, finding ways to dispose of it without her noticing. But Olivia controls everything in that house. The staff, the doctors, even his legal affairs since she has power of attorney. Not everything, Eleanor corrected her. Ayu said he made calls to business associates today, even his attorney. That means he still has connections to the outside world. Connections Olivia hasn't completely severed. So we need to help him rebuild those connections, Lily realized. Give him back access to people who can actually help him challenge Olivia's control. Eleanor nodded. Exactly. And we need to do it in a way that doesn't implicate us directly, for our safety and for his. That night, Lily barely slept, her mind working through various scenarios. By morning, she had formulated a plan, risky but potentially effective. The next day, as instructed, Lily reported to the guest cottages. The small, elegant buildings were used for visiting business associates and family friends, though Ethan hadn't entertained guests in years. Currently empty, they required only basic maintenance, dusting, vacuuming, and occasional airing out. It was mindless work that left Lily plenty of time to think. During her lunch break, she returned to the main house to eat with the other staff members. In the bustling kitchen, she managed to exchange a few words with her mother. "Any news?" she whispered. Eleanor leaned close, ostensibly passing a salt shaker. Mr. Mitchell asked for his laptop today, insisted on it. Miss Sinclair tried to dissuade him, saying screen time triggers his migraines, but he was unusually firm. He's been in his study all morning, door closed. This was encouraging. Ethan was already beginning to assert himself. What about his medication? She watched him take it personally this morning, Eleanor reported grimly. But he's been drinking lots of water afterward and making frequent trips to the bathroom. I think he might be purging it somehow. Before they could continue their conversation, Mrs. Thompson approached. "Lily, shouldn't you be attending to the East Cottage? The Sandersons might be visiting next week, and Miss Sinclair wants it thoroughly prepared." "Yes, Mrs. Thompson. I was just finishing lunch." Throughout the afternoon, Lily cleaned the East Cottage while formulating the next phase of her plan. She needed to get a message to Ethan, something Olivia wouldn't intercept. The opportunity came unexpectedly when she returned to the main house to collect additional cleaning supplies. Through the window of Ethan's study, she could see him working at his desk, alone for the moment. With a quick glance to ensure no one was watching, she scribbled a note on a small piece of paper and slipped it into a folder of documents sitting on a side table, waiting to be delivered to him. The note was simple. "Check your company's personnel files for J. Morrison. Medical background might help your case. Be careful with electronic communications. She may have access. Consider trusted outside counsel." It wasn't much, but it might give Ethan a starting point, a way to begin gathering evidence without Olivia's knowledge. As the day progressed, Lily kept her distance as ordered, but observed the mansion from afar. There was unusual activity, a different car in the driveway, one she didn't recognize. A visitor was rare enough to pique her interest. When she returned to the staff area to clock out for the day, the household was buzzing with the news. Ethan had arranged for an independent doctor to visit, a neurologist from Yale who specialized in spinal cord injuries. "Miss Sinclair is furious," whispered Maggie, one of the kitchen staff. "I could hear them arguing from the hallway. She kept saying it was unnecessary and disruptive to his treatment plan, but Mr. Mitchell wouldn't budge." "What did the new doctor say?" Lily asked, trying to sound merely curious rather than desperately invested. Maggie shrugged. "No idea. They were in the study with the door closed for over an hour, but Miss Sinclair looked like she'd seen a ghost when the doctor left." This was progress, faster than Lily had anticipated. Ethan wasn't wasting any time reclaiming control of his medical care. As Lily was leaving, she caught a glimpse of Ethan in his wheelchair on the terrace, staring out at the sprawling gardens. Even from a distance, she could see the rigid set of his shoulders, the tension radiating from him. Whatever the neurologist had told him had clearly been significant. At home that evening, Eleanor brought more news. Miss Sinclair was on the phone all afternoon after the doctor left, frantic calls to Dr. Whitaker, to her lawyer, even to someone she called the supplier. "She's panicking, Lily. Something the neurologist said has her scrambling. Did you hear anything specific?" Eleanor shook her head. "Only fragments. But at one point she said, 'He can't change doctors now, it's too risky.' And later, 'We need to increase the dosage. He's becoming too aware.'" Lily felt a chill run down her spine. She's going to try to drug him even more heavily now that he's showing signs of independence. It gets worse, Eleanor continued grimly. I overheard her on another call this evening talking about accelerating the timeline. She said, "It's time to move to the final phase. I can't wait another year for the full inheritance." The implication was clear and horrifying. Whatever Olivia had been planning, she was now preparing to expedite it, potentially putting Ethan in immediate danger. "We need to warn him," Lily said urgently. "Tonight." "How?" The mansion is locked down after hours, and Olivia rarely leaves his side now that she's suspicious. Lily paced their small living room, mind racing. What about his phone? Could we call him directly? Olivia screens all his calls, has for years. Email? She monitors his accounts, claims it's to reduce stress from business matters. Lily stopped abruptly. Wait, today he was using his laptop, insisting on it. What if he's already created new channels of communication she doesn't know about? Eleanor considered this. Possible, but how would we know how to reach him? Lily's gaze fell on the small notebook she'd found, James Morrison's observations about Ethan's medication. An idea began to form. "Mom, I need to get back into the mansion tonight." Eleanor's eyes widened. "That's too dangerous, Lily. The security system—" "I know a way in," Lily interrupted. "When I was cleaning the East Wing last week, I noticed one of the service entrance doors has a faulty lock. The maintenance staff have been meaning to fix it, but it's low priority since the alarm system is supposed to be the main security." "And the alarm?" "I've watched Mrs. Thompson enter the code dozens of times. I know how to disarm it for the service areas." Eleanor looked deeply troubled. "Lily, breaking in could mean criminal charges, not just losing your job. There has to be another way." "There isn't," Lily insisted. "Not with the timeline Olivia is working on. If she's planning to accelerate things, Ethan could be in immediate danger. I need to warn him tonight, and I need to get concrete evidence of what she's been giving him." After much debate, Eleanor reluctantly agreed to the plan, though she insisted on accompanying Lily to keep watch outside. Under cover of darkness, they approached the mansion from the service road that wound through the back of the property. The estate was mostly dark, with lights visible only in Olivia and Ethan's wing. "Remember," Eleanor whispered as they reached the service door, 15 minutes. Get in, get what you need, and get out. If anything feels wrong, abandon the plan immediately." Lily nodded, adrenaline coursing through her veins as she carefully manipulated the faulty lock and slipped inside. The service corridor was dark and silent as she punched in the security code, breathing a sigh of relief when the small light turned green, indicating the system was temporarily disarmed. Moving silently through the familiar hallways, Lily made her way toward the room where Ethan's medications were prepared and stored, a small chamber adjacent to the master suite that Olivia kept meticulously locked. Tonight, however, Lily came prepared with a simple lock-picking set she'd purchased from a hardware store on her lunch break. Her hands trembled slightly as she worked on the lock, ears straining for any sound of approach. After what felt like an eternity, the lock clicked open, and Lily slipped inside, closing the door carefully behind her. What she found inside the medication room would change everything. The medication room was smaller than Lily had imagined, more of a large walk-in closet than a proper room. Clinical and meticulously organized, it contained a stainless steel countertop, a small refrigerator, and wall-to-wall shelving filled with pharmaceutical supplies. The space smelled of antiseptic and something else, a faint chemical odor Lily couldn't identify. Working quickly by the light of her phone's flashlight, Lily examined the shelves. Prescription bottles with Ethan's name and Dr. Whitaker's information lined one section, their labels indicating they contained standard medications for nerve pain, muscle relaxants, and anti-inflammatory drugs. Nothing unusual, except that many of the bottles appeared untouched, their seals intact despite the prescriptions being months old. Beside these sat another collection of containers, unmarked amber bottles and small vials with handwritten labels like EM Morning Supplement and EM Evening Formula. These, Lily suspected, contained whatever Olivia was actually giving Ethan. She photographed everything, careful to capture the labels, dates, and positions of the various medications. Then, with steady hands, she extracted small samples from 3 of the unmarked containers, placing them in tiny Ziploc bags she'd brought for this purpose. As she worked, Lily discovered a leather-bound journal tucked behind the medication bottles. Opening it revealed pages of handwritten notes in Olivia's elegant script, detailed observations of dosages, effects, and Ethan's responses to various combinations of substances. The clinical detachment of the entries sent a chill down Lily's spine. Increased muscle relaxant dosage today. E showed signs of improved cognitive function in morning, necessitating adjustment. By afternoon, speech was appropriately slurred, mobility reduced to expected levels. New formula proving effective. E no longer questioning medication regimen. Memory issues more pronounced, unable to recall conversations from same day. Ideal for upcoming attorney visit estate amendments. Lily's hands shook as she photographed page after page of the damning journal. This wasn't just controlling behavior. It was calculated, methodical poisoning documented in Olivia's own handwriting. A final discovery nearly made Lily gasp aloud. In a locked drawer she managed to open, she found a series of legal documents, amendments to Ethan's will and trust arrangements, all signed within the past 3 years. Each progressively allocated more control and assets to Olivia, culminating in a document dated just 2 months prior that named her as the primary beneficiary of his entire estate, with specific instructions to continue current medical protocols indefinitely. Lily photographed these as well, her heart pounding with the realization of the full scope of Olivia's plan. This wasn't just about control or money. It was about permanently keeping Ethan in a diminished state, while systematically taking ownership of everything he had built. A noise from the hallway startled her, footsteps approaching the master suite. Lily quickly returned everything to its exact position, closed the drawer and slipped the journal back into place. With the samples secure in her pocket and dozens of photos on her phone, she eased toward the door, listening intently. She could hear Olivia's voice now, speaking to Ethan in the bedroom. "Darling, you seem so agitated tonight. I think we should increase your evening medication. The neurologist's visit clearly upset you, which isn't good for your recovery." "I'm fine, Olivia." Ethan's voice was stronger than Lily had ever heard it, laced with barely contained anger. "Dr. Lambert's assessment was enlightening. She believes my condition has been mismanaged for years. She wants a complete reassessment, including blood work to check for drug interactions." There was a pause, and when Olivia spoke again, her voice had an edge of steel beneath its honeyed concern. "Ethan, this is exactly why I've been protective of your medical care. Every new doctor wants to start from scratch, disrupting protocols that have kept you stable. It's exhausting and counterproductive." "Stable or sedated?" The challenge in Ethan's voice was unmistakable. Another pause, longer this time. Lily held her breath, her escape route blocked by their conversation in the adjacent room. "I don't know what you mean," Olivia finally responded, her tone carefully controlled. "Perhaps you're overtired. Let me get your evening medication. It will help you rest." "No." The single word hung in the air with surprising authority. "No more medication tonight, Olivia. I'm thinking clearly for the first time in years, and I intend to stay that way." "Don't be ridiculous. Your pain will return without—" "My pain is manageable," Ethan interrupted. "What's becoming unmanageable is my growing suspicion that you've been keeping me medicated for your own purposes." Lily could practically feel the tension crackling through the wall. She needed to leave now while they were distracted with this confrontation, but found herself frozen in place, witnessing a pivotal moment in Ethan's awakening. "That's absurd." Olivia's voice had risen slightly. "Everything I've done has been for your well-being. I've sacrificed my own career, my own life to care for you." "Have you?" Ethan's tone was dangerously quiet. "Then explain why. On days when I've managed to avoid taking what you give me, I feel exponentially better. Explain why Dr. Lambert found no medical reason why I shouldn't have made significant recovery progress in 5 years. Explain the unsigned amendments to my will that my attorney knew nothing about." There was the sound of movement, Olivia pacing, perhaps. "You're not thinking clearly. This paranoia is concerning, Ethan. It suggests your neurological symptoms are worsening." "Stop." Ethan's voice was firm. "Just stop, Olivia. I've requested a complete toxicology screening tomorrow. Dr. Lambert is sending a lab technician first thing in the morning. If there's nothing in my system except my prescribed medications, you have nothing to worry about." The silence that followed was deafening. Lily knew she needed to escape before Olivia entered the medication room. With utmost care, She eased the door open a fraction of an inch, peering into the hallway. It was clear. This was her chance. Slipping out and quietly pulling the door closed behind her, Lily moved swiftly down the corridor, away from the master suite. She had nearly reached the service entrance when she rounded a corner and collided directly with Mrs. Thompson. The older woman's eyes widened in shock. "Lily, what on earth are you doing here at this hour?" Lily's mind raced for a plausible explanation. "Mrs. Thompson, I'm so sorry. I left my cell phone in the East Cottage while cleaning today. I couldn't sleep knowing it was here, and I still have the service door key from when I was working late last week." Mrs. Thompson's eyes narrowed with suspicion. "The alarm system should have been active. I used the code I've seen you enter," Lily admitted, deciding partial honesty was her best option. "I know I shouldn't have, but I really needed my phone. I have an elderly neighbor who might need to reach me in an emergency." The housekeeper studied her face for a long moment. "This is completely inappropriate, Lily. I should report this to Miss Sinclair immediately." "Please," Lily implored. "I know it was wrong. It won't happen again, I promise. I just needed my phone." Mrs. Thompson hesitated, her expression softening slightly. "Where is this phone you supposedly came to retrieve?" Lily's heart sank, the one flaw in her hastily constructed lie. I couldn't find it. I must have left it somewhere else." "I see." Mrs. Thompson's tone made it clear she didn't believe a word. "Well, since you're here, you might as well follow me to my office. I'd like to discuss this further before deciding whether to wake Miss Sinclair." Trapped, Lily followed the housekeeper down the hallway, desperately trying to think of a way out of this situation. The evidence in her pocket and on her phone could expose Olivia's entire scheme, but only if she managed to get it out of the mansion. In Mrs. Thompson's small office, the older woman gestured for Lily to sit, then closed the door firmly behind them. "Now," she said, folding her arms across her chest, "why don't you tell me the real reason you're here tonight?" Lily hesitated, weighing her options. Mrs. Thompson had always seemed loyal to Olivia, but there had been moments when Lily detected a certain wariness in the housekeeper's interactions with her employer. Was it possible she had her own suspicions? Taking a deep breath, Lily decided to take a calculated risk. "Mrs. Thompson, how long have you worked for Mr. Mitchell?" The question seemed to surprise the older woman. "Nearly 15 years. I was managing the household long before his accident, back when this place was full of life and visitors." "And how would you describe him before the accident, compared to now?" Mrs. Thompson's professional facade cracked slightly. "What are you implying, Lily?" "I think you know exactly what I'm implying," Lily said quietly. "I think you've watched a brilliant, vibrant man deteriorate under suspicious circumstances. I think you've witnessed staff being dismissed for asking the wrong questions. And I think you've had your own doubts about Miss Sinclair's devoted care for quite some time." The housekeeper's face remained impassive, but something flickered in her eyes. Recognition, perhaps, or relief. "That's quite an accusation," she finally said, her voice barely above a whisper. "It's not an accusation, it's an observation." Lily leaned forward. "Mrs. Thompson, Mr. Mitchell is in danger. Miss Sinclair has been systematically drugging him for years to keep him dependent and alter his mental state. I have evidence." She patted her pocket gently. "And tonight, I heard her talking about accelerating the timeline. I believe she's planning something drastic." Mrs. Thompson sank slowly into her chair, the professional mask slipping further. "I've wondered," she admitted, her voice strained. "There have been inconsistencies, medications that change without explanation, staff dismissed without cause, the way she insists on preparing everything herself, controlling every aspect of his environment. Did you know James Morrison, the night nurse?" The housekeeper nodded slowly. "He was good for Mr. Mitchell, professional, compassionate. Then one day he was simply gone. Miss Sinclair said he'd taken another position, but his personal items remained in his locker for weeks. It was as if he'd vanished in the middle of his shift." Lily felt a chill at this confirmation of her fears. "Mrs. Thompson, I need your help. Mr. Mitchell has begun to realize what's happening, but Miss Sinclair is dangerous. I need to get this evidence to him, and I need to get out of here without her knowing I was here." The older woman studied Lily for what felt like an eternity before coming to a decision. "Wait here." She left the office, closing the door behind her. Lily sat frozen, uncertain whether Mrs. Thompson was fetching security or worse, Olivia herself. The minutes stretched painfully until the door finally reopened. Mrs. Thompson returned alone, carrying a small key. "This is the master key to the service areas. It will let you out through the north delivery entrance, which isn't connected to the main alarm system. There are no cameras in that section." Lily accepted the key with surprise. "You're helping me." "I've served the Mitchell family loyally for 15 years, Mrs. Thompson said quietly. "I watched Ethan grow his company from a startup to an empire. I planned his parents' funeral receptions in this very house. And for 5 years, I've watched that woman slowly erase the man he was, telling myself it wasn't my place to question medical decisions." Her voice broke slightly. "Perhaps it's time I remembered my loyalty lies with him, not her." Relief flooded through Lily. "Thank you." "Don't thank me yet. Getting out is one thing. What do you plan to do with your evidence?" Lily straightened her shoulders. "Get it to Mr. Mitchell directly and help him break free of her control before it's too late." Mrs. Thompson nodded. "Then you'll need this as well." She handed Lily a business card. "This is the contact information for Mr. Mitchell's personal attorney from before the accident. Miss Sinclair has been using her own legal team for years, but his original lawyer still manages some of his oldest business interests. He might be willing to help." With renewed determination, Lily slipped out of the mansion through the north delivery entrance, the evidence secure in her pocket. Eleanor was waiting anxiously by their agreed meeting spot, relief washing over her face when Lily appeared. "Did you get what you needed?" she whispered as they hurried to their car. Lily nodded, her expression grim but resolute. "More than I expected. And tomorrow we're going to make sure Ethan sees all of it." As they drove away from Oakwood Manor, the imposing silhouette of the mansion faded into the darkness behind them. Within those walls, a battle of wills was unfolding between Ethan and Olivia, a prelude to the final confrontation that would determine not just control of a fortune, but possibly Ethan's very survival. Dawn broke over Greenwich with streaks of crimson and gold, a fitting backdrop for the day of reckoning that lay ahead. Lily had barely slept, spending most of the night documenting her findings and organizing the evidence she'd gathered. Eleanor had helped, her experience as a former medical assistant proving invaluable as they identified the substances in Olivia's unmarked bottles. "These aren't standard medications," Eleanor had noted grimly as they researched online. "Based on the appearance and your descriptions, I suspect this one contains benzodiazepines, powerful sedatives that would certainly cause the mental fog Ethan experiences. And this clear liquid," she frowned. "It could be any number of muscle relaxants, perhaps even something not approved for long-term use." By morning, they had compiled everything into a comprehensive file. Photographs of the medication room, samples carefully sealed and labeled, images of Olivia's journal entries, and copies of the legal documents showing the gradual transfer of Ethan's assets. It was damning evidence of a years-long campaign to keep Ethan incapacitated while systematically taking control of his fortune. "How are we going to get this to him?" Eleanor asked as they prepared for work. "Olivia will be watching you like a hawk after your conversation yesterday." Lily studied the business card Mrs. Thompson had given her. "We need to contact his original attorney first. If Olivia has been manipulating legal documents, he needs to know immediately." "But we can't call from here," Eleanor cautioned. "If she's as thorough as we suspect, she might be monitoring phone records of household staff. Then we'll stop at a payphone on the way to work." The attorney's office opened at 8 a.m. At 8:05, Lily stood at a payphone outside a convenience store, heart pounding as she dialed the number. "Harrington, Wells and Associates, how may I direct your call?" A professional voice answered. "I need to speak with Mr. Harrington regarding Ethan Mitchell. It's urgent." After a brief hold, a deep voice came on the line. "This is Robert Harrington. Who am I speaking with?" "My name is Lily Carson. I work at Oakwood Manor, Mr. Mitchell's estate. I have reason to believe his fiancée, Olivia Sinclair, has been drugging him for years to manipulate his mental state and gain control of his assets." There was a moment of stunned silence before the attorney responded. "That's an extremely serious accusation, Ms. Carson. I know, and I have evidence. Photographs of unauthorized medications, journal entries in Miss Sinclair's handwriting documenting how she's been sedating him, and copies of legal documents transferring his assets that he likely signed while impaired." "Where did you obtain these documents?" Harrington's tone was cautious but engaged. "From a locked room in the mansion where she stores and prepares his medications." "Mr. Harrington, I know how this sounds, but Mr. Mitchell is in danger. He's begun to realize what's happening, and Ms. Sinclair is threatening to accelerate her timeline." I fear for his safety." The attorney was quiet for a moment, considering. "I've had concerns about Ethan's situation for some time. Our communication has been severely limited since his accident, with Ms. Sinclair controlling access. The few times I've spoken with him directly, he seemed unusually disoriented for someone with a spinal injury." Another pause. "Can you get your evidence to my office today?" "Yes, but I also need to warn Mr. Mitchell directly. Ms. Sinclair has scheduled a toxicology screening for him this morning, something he demanded after consulting with an independent neurologist yesterday. I'm afraid of what she might do when cornered." "I understand. Here's what we'll do. I'll come to the estate myself under the pretense of discussing some of his long-standing business interests. That should get me through the door without raising immediate alarms. Bring your evidence to my office by noon, and I'll have my associate review it immediately. If it's as compelling as you suggest, we can take appropriate legal action today." Relief washed over Lily. "Thank you, Mr. Harrington. One more thing, Ms. Carson, be extremely careful. If your allegations are true, you're dealing with someone who has methodically orchestrated a sophisticated scheme for years. That level of calculation makes her dangerous when threatened." As Lily replaced the receiver, the weight of the attorney's warning settled on her shoulders. Yes, Olivia was dangerous, but doing nothing would be even more dangerous for Ethan. At Oakwood Manor, the atmosphere was charged with tension. Staff moved through their duties with unusual quietness, exchanging meaningful glances. Something had happened overnight, though no one seemed to know exactly what. Lily reported to the guest cottages as assigned, but her mind was elsewhere, calculating how to deliver the file to Harrington's office by noon. Eleanor would have to take it. Lily couldn't risk leaving the estate again after yesterday's confrontation with Olivia. Mid-morning, Mrs. Thompson appeared at the cottage Lily was cleaning, her expression grave. "There's been an incident," she said without preamble, closing the door behind her. "The lab technician arrived for Mr. Mitchell's toxicology screening, but apparently he had a medical episode just before the appointment. Miss Sinclair called Dr. Whitaker instead of an ambulance. He's there now." Lily's blood ran cold. What kind of medical episode? "She's claiming he had a seizure, but—" Mrs. Thompson hesitated, lowering her voice. "Jenkins, the groundskeeper, was near the terrace when it happened. He said they were arguing loudly just before. He heard Mr. Mitchell say he was going to expose everything, and that he'd been compiling evidence for days. She did something to him," Lily whispered, horrified, "to prevent the toxicology screening." Mrs. Thompson nodded grimly. "I believe so, and there's more. Miss Sinclair has instructed me to prepare the guest suite for Dr. Whitaker. She wants him to stay overnight to monitor Ethan's condition. This has never happened before." The implications were clear. Olivia was accelerating her plan, creating a medical crisis that would justify increased medication and closer monitoring, effectively ending Ethan's brief period of clarity and autonomy. "His attorney is coming today," Lily told Mrs. Thompson. "Robert Harrington. He should arrive within hours." "Let's hope it's not too late," the housekeeper replied. "Miss Sinclair is on the phone with someone right now, giving instructions about moving assets immediately and finalizing the contingency plan. She seems to be liquidating accounts, Lily." This was escalating faster than Lily had anticipated. Olivia wasn't just trying to reassert control, she was preparing to disappear with Ethan's fortune. "I need to get to him now," Lily decided, "before Dr. Whitaker sedates him further." "That's impossible. Miss Sinclair hasn't left his side since this morning. She even had his meals brought to the bedroom," Lily thought quickly. "The medication room, is it locked? Always, but—" Mrs. Thompson produced a key from her pocket. "I have access for emergencies, part of my responsibilities as head of household. I need to see what she gave him this morning. If she induced this seizure, there might be evidence." They moved swiftly to the main house, using the service corridors to avoid being seen. The medication room was exactly as Lily had left it the night before, except for one crucial difference. Several of the unmarked bottles were now empty, their contents presumably administered to Ethan during his episode. "Look at this," Mrs. Thompson whispered, pointing to Olivia's journal which lay open on the counter. The latest entry, written in a hastier version of Olivia's elegant script, read, "Emergency protocol implemented. E becoming dangerously independent, making unauthorized contact with former associates. Administered triple dose to induce temporary symptoms that will necessitate increased monitoring." W is compliant as always, accelerating final phase to Friday. Preparations in place for offshore transfer. Must ensure E is fully sedated for transport. Friday, just 2 days away. Olivia was planning to move Ethan, possibly out of the country, while he was heavily sedated. "We need to call the police," Mrs. Thompson said, her face pale. "With what evidence? We can't prove that journal is hers, and she'll claim we planted the unmarked medications." Lily shook her head. "No, we need Ethan conscious and able to speak for himself when authorities arrive, and we need his attorney here with the legal authority to intervene." A plan began to form in Lily's mind, desperate and risky, but perhaps their only option. "Mrs. Thompson, I need you to do something for me. Call Mr. Harrington's office and tell him to come immediately, not in a few hours. Tell him it's life or death." "And what will you do?" Lily's expression hardened with determination. "I'm going to make sure Ethan is lucid enough to speak for himself when his attorney arrives." While Mrs. Thompson went to make the call, Lily hurried to the kitchen where she found Eleanor preparing lunch trays. "Mom, I need your help," she whispered urgently, explaining the situation in hurried fragments. Eleanor listened, her experienced eyes widening at the mention of the triple dosage. "That level of sedatives could cause respiratory depression, Lily. He may need medical intervention. Real medical intervention, not whatever Dr. Whitaker is providing. Then we'll get it for him. But first, we need to counteract what she's already given him." Lily glanced around the kitchen. "Strong coffee? Anything to help flush the drugs from his system?" Eleanor thought for a moment. "I have a better idea. Wait here." She disappeared into the staff area, returning moments later with a small bottle from her purse. "Activated charcoal capsules. I keep them for digestive issues, but they're also used in emergency rooms to absorb toxins. If the drugs are still in his system and haven't been fully metabolized, this might help reduce their effect. How do we get them to him with Olivia standing guard?" Eleanor gestured to the lunch tray she'd been preparing. "I'll crush the capsules and mix them into his soup. It's dark enough that she won't notice. The bitter taste might be detectable, but if he's as aware as you think, he might understand something's being done to help him." It was a desperate measure, but they had run out of better options. Eleanor carefully crushed several capsules and stirred them into the dark mushroom soup intended for Ethan's lunch. "I'll deliver this myself," she told Lily. "As the senior kitchen staff, it won't seem unusual. You stay out of sight. Olivia is already suspicious of you." As Eleanor departed with the tray, Lily paced the kitchen, every minute feeling like an hour. The mansion had taken on an eerie quiet, as if the entire household was holding its breath, waiting for the coming storm. Nearly 30 minutes later, Eleanor returned, her expression a mixture of concern and triumph. "I got it to him," she whispered. "Olivia was in the adjoining bathroom when I arrived. I had just enough time to tell Ethan that help was coming and that the soup might taste strange but would help clear his head. He understood. I could see it in his eyes, Lily. He's still in there, fighting. And Olivia?" She returned just as I was leaving. She seemed distracted, agitated. "She's packing a suitcase, Lily. There are travel documents on the dresser." The situation was deteriorating rapidly. Lily checked her watch. Barely 11 a.m. Even if Harrington came immediately, it might be another hour before he arrived. "We need to slow her down," Lily decided. "Create some kind of distraction that will buy us time without putting Ethan at further risk." They were interrupted by Mrs. Thompson, who entered the kitchen with her professional mask firmly in place, a warning that she wasn't alone. Behind her came Dr. Whitaker, a thin man with wire-rimmed glasses and a perpetually concerned expression. "Ah, the kitchen staff," he noted with minimal interest. "Mrs. Thompson, I'll need a light dinner prepared for 6 p.m., nothing too heavy for Mr. Mitchell. His digestive system is delicate after this morning's episode." "Of course, Doctor," Mrs. Thompson replied smoothly. "And what about Miss Sinclair's request for travel meals? Should we continue those preparations as well?" Dr. Whitaker frowned slightly. "Travel meals? I wasn't aware." He caught himself. "Yes, of course, though I've advised against travel in his condition. Perhaps in a few weeks, once he's stabilized again." After the doctor left, Mrs. Thompson turned to them with a meaningful look. "Interesting. It seems Dr. Whitaker isn't fully informed about the offshore transfer planned for Friday." "That could be useful," Lily murmured. "Did you reach Mr. Harrington?" "Yes, he's on his way. Should be here within 45 minutes. He's bringing his associate and has alerted the authorities to be on standby." A measure of relief washed over Lily, though she knew the most dangerous part still lay ahead. Now we wait and hope the activated charcoal helps Ethan fight through whatever she gave him. As the minutes ticked by, tension built throughout the mansion. Staff moved with unusual purposefulness, many having sensed the underlying currents of conflict. Olivia remained sequestered in the master suite with Ethan, while Dr. Whitaker occasionally emerged to make phone calls in the privacy of the guest suite. At precisely 11:43 a.m., the mansion's security system announced an approaching vehicle. Through the front windows, Lily saw a sleek black sedan making its way up the long driveway. "Mr. Harrington," Mrs. Thompson confirmed, having glanced at the security monitor, "and he's not alone." Indeed, as the car came to a stop, 3 people emerged: a distinguished older man in an impeccable suit, a younger woman carrying a briefcase, and a uniformed police officer. The endgame had begun. The mansion's grand entrance hall had witnessed countless arrivals over the years: business associates, socialites, celebrities drawn to Ethan Mitchell's legendary pre-accident gatherings. But none had carried the weight of destiny that accompanied Robert Harrington's measured footsteps as Mrs. Thompson escorted him and his companions inside. "Miss Sinclair is with Mr. Mitchell in the master suite," she informed them with professional detachment. "She's requested no disturbances following his medical episode this morning." "I'm afraid this can't wait," Harrington replied, his baritone voice carrying the authority of his 30 years in corporate law. Tall and silver-haired, with piercing blue eyes that had intimidated countless opponents in courtrooms and boardrooms alike, he exuded the confidence of someone accustomed to navigating difficult situations. "Please inform Miss Sinclair that Ethan's attorney is here on urgent business regarding his estate." While Mrs. Thompson went to deliver the message, Lily approached the group cautiously, aware of the risk she was taking by showing herself. "Mr. Harrington," she said quietly, "I'm Lily Carson. We spoke earlier." The attorney studied her with shrewd assessment. "Ms. Carson, thank you for bringing this matter to my attention. This is my associate, Sarah Chen, and Officer Daniels from the Greenwich Police Department." Chen, a sharp-eyed woman in her 30s, nodded professionally. "We received your evidence from your mother. Quite compelling, especially the journal entries and medication samples." "Not enough for an arrest warrant," Officer Daniels added in a low voice, "but sufficient for a welfare check given Mr. Mitchell's medical vulnerability. We'll need his direct testimony." "That might be difficult," Lily warned. She administered what her journal called a triple dose this morning to prevent his toxicology screening. "He may be heavily sedated." Harrington's expression darkened. "Then it's fortunate we brought Dr. Morgan." He gestured toward the doorway where an authoritative woman in a medical coat was now entering, medical bag in hand. An independent physician with expertise in toxicology. The police requested her presence given the nature of our concerns. Before Lily could respond, the clicking of heels on marble announced Olivia's arrival. She descended the grand staircase with practiced grace, her expression a perfect mask of polite confusion tinged with concern. "Robert," she greeted Harrington with familiarity, though her eyes narrowed at the sight of his companions. "What an unexpected surprise. I'm afraid Ethan isn't up to visitors today. He's had a rather serious seizure this morning. Dr. Whitaker is quite concerned." "I understand completely," Harrington replied smoothly. "However, there are urgent matters regarding his technology holdings that require immediate attention, potential security breaches that could affect shareholder value. As his attorney of record for Mitchell Technologies, I have a fiduciary responsibility to consult with him directly." Olivia's smile remained fixed, but something dangerous flickered in her eyes. "As I said, he's not well. Perhaps I can help, given my power of attorney." "That's precisely the issue, Ms. Sinclair. There appear to be inconsistencies in the recent amendments to Ethan's power of attorney arrangements. My firm needs to verify his intentions directly." A tense silence followed as Olivia assessed the situation. Her gaze swept over the group, lingering momentarily on Officer Daniels' uniform before returning to Harrington with newfound calculation. "Of course," she finally conceded, her voice honey-sweet. "Ethan's business interests must be protected. He's resting now, but I'm sure he can manage a brief conversation. Please follow me." As they ascended the staircase, Lily exchanged a meaningful glance with Mrs. Thompson, who nodded slightly, a silent confirmation that she would remain nearby, ready to assist if needed. The master suite occupied the entire east wing of the second floor, a sprawling collection of rooms centered around the bedroom where Ethan now lay. As Olivia led them through the sitting area, Lily could see Dr. Whitaker emerging from the bedroom, clearly startled by the procession of unexpected visitors. "What's the meaning of this?" he demanded, positioning himself protectively in front of the bedroom door. "Mr. Mitchell is in no condition for visitors. He needs absolute rest following his seizure." "These are Ethan's legal representatives," Olivia explained with forced calm. "They need to consult with him on an urgent business matter. It will only take a moment, Doctor." Dr. Whitaker hesitated, his gaze darting between Olivia and the newcomers. "I must insist on being present given his fragile state." "Actually," Dr. Morgan stepped forward, extending her credentials. "I'm Dr. Helen Morgan, neurology and toxicology specialist. Given the complexity of Mr. Mitchell's condition, I'd like to offer a consultation. Perhaps we could discuss his case while the attorneys speak with him." The strategic division was clear, separate Whitaker from the room, while Harrington assessed Ethan's condition. Whitaker appeared torn, his professional interest piqued by the presence of a specialist, yet clearly reluctant to leave Ethan unattended. "It's standard procedure to have a medical professional present during police welfare checks," Officer Daniels added casually, making his purpose known. A flicker of alarm crossed Whitaker's face. "Police welfare check? I don't understand." "A formality," Harrington interjected smoothly. "Given Ethan's prominent position and recent medical episodes, the department occasionally verifies his well-being. Strictly protocol." Olivia's composure slipped momentarily, her hand tightening around the doorknob. "This is absurd. Ethan has round-the-clock medical care from highly qualified professionals." "Then you have nothing to worry about," Chen replied with professional detachment. "We'll be brief." Recognizing she was outnumbered, Olivia reluctantly opened the bedroom door. "5 minutes," she conceded. "He truly isn't well." The spacious bedroom was dimly lit, heavy curtains drawn against the midday sun. Ethan lay propped against pillows, his once powerful frame appearing diminished in the massive bed. As they entered, his eyes opened, unfocused at first, then gradually sharpening with recognition as they fell on Harrington. "Robert." His voice was hoarse, but stronger than Lily had expected. The activated charcoal must have helped counteract at least some of the sedatives. "What brings you here?" "Hello, Ethan." Harrington approached the bed, genuine concern evident beneath his professional demeanor. "We need to discuss some urgent matters regarding your holdings. How are you feeling today?" Ethan's gaze drifted to Officer Daniels, then Dr. Morgan, comprehension dawning slowly. "Not my best day," he admitted, struggling to sit more upright. "Had some kind of episode this morning. Things are foggy." Olivia immediately moved to adjust his pillows, her solicitous attention almost convincing. "Don't strain yourself, darling. Perhaps this meeting could wait until—" "No," Ethan interrupted with surprising firmness. "I want to hear what Robert has to say." Dr. Morgan approached, her medical assessment beginning with a practiced eye. "Mr. Mitchell, I'm Dr. Morgan. Would you mind if I checked your vitals while you speak with your attorney? Just a precaution." Before Olivia could object, Ethan nodded his consent. As the doctor began her examination, Harrington positioned himself beside the bed, effectively creating a barrier between Ethan and Olivia. "Ethan, we've received concerning information regarding your medical treatment and certain legal documents executed over the past few years," Harrington began carefully. "Officer Daniels is here to take a statement if you wish to make one." Confusion clouded Ethan's features momentarily before a spark of clarity emerged. "The amendments to my will," he murmured. "And the asset transfers. You found them." "Yes, they raise significant questions about your capacity at the time of signing." Olivia stepped forward, her voice tight with controlled anger. "This is preposterous. Every document was properly executed with Ethan's full knowledge and consent. If you're implying otherwise—" "I don't remember signing them," Ethan interrupted, his voice gaining strength. "Not clearly. Everything from the past 5 years is fragmented, like looking through frosted glass." Dr. Morgan, who had been discreetly checking Ethan's pupils and pulse, spoke up. "Mr. Mitchell, have you been experiencing periods of unusual mental clarity alternating with confusion, perhaps feeling more alert in the mornings before medication?" "Yes," he confirmed, his gaze sharpening further. "Exactly that. Like today, I was completely lucid early this morning, Then after my seizure and whatever Olivia and Dr. Whitaker gave me, everything became distant again. Olivia's mask of concern transformed into cold fury. You're confused, Ethan. The seizure has affected your memory. I don't think so, he countered, fixing her with a steady gaze. I've been refusing my medication for days, Olivia, disposing of it when you weren't watching. And every time I do, my mind clears a little more. Enough to start putting the pieces together. The revelation hung in the air between them, a declaration of rebellion that visibly shook Olivia's composure. Your suspicions were correct, Mr. Mitchell, Dr. Morgan stated professionally. Your symptoms are consistent with benzodiazepine and anticholinergic medication effects, neither of which would be standard long-term treatments for spinal cord injury. I'd recommend immediate comprehensive toxicology screening. Officer Daniels stepped forward. Mr. Mitchell, would you like to make a formal statement regarding your concerns about your medical care and the management of your affairs? Ethan's gaze never left Olivia's face as he responded, Yes. I believe I've been intentionally sedated and manipulated for years. I want a full investigation of my medical treatment, my legal documents, everything. The controlled facade Olivia had maintained finally shattered. This is insanity. After everything I've sacrificed for you, years of my life dedicated to your care, and you reward my devotion with these paranoid accusations. It's over, Olivia, Ethan said quietly. Whatever you've been planning ends today. Her expression contorted with rage, before abruptly shifting to calculation. You have no proof of anything, she hissed. Only the confused ramblings of a man with brain damage from a traumatic accident. No court would take your word over documented medical history. Actually, Chen interjected, opening her briefcase, we have substantial evidence, including your own documentation of systematically medicating Mr. Mitchell to alter his mental state for financial gain. She produced copies of the journal pages Lily had photographed. Your handwriting is quite distinctive, Miss Sinclair. The color drained from Olivia's face as she recognized her own journal entries. Her gaze swept the room, finally landing on Lily, who had remained quietly near the door. You, she whispered, comprehension dawning. You were in my private rooms. You stole my personal papers. She exposed a criminal conspiracy, Officer Daniels corrected, stepping forward. Ms. Sinclair, I need you to come with me for questioning regarding potential charges of financial exploitation of a vulnerable adult, unauthorized practice of medicine, and attempted financial fraud. As if on cue, Dr. Whitaker appeared in the doorway, his expression alarmed. What's happening here? This is highly irregular. Dr. Whitaker, Officer Daniels addressed him without taking his eyes off Olivia. I suggest you remain available for questioning as well. There appear to be serious concerns regarding your role in Mr. Mitchell's medical care. The reality of her situation finally seemed to register with Olivia. With the calculated precision that had characterized her years of manipulation, she assessed her options, her gaze darting toward her purse on the nearby dresser. Lily, recognizing her intent, moved quickly to block her path. The travel documents and banking information you've been preparing, she said quietly, they won't help you now. Something dangerous flashed in Olivia's eyes, the cornered predator preparing for a final desperate attack. For a heart-stopping moment, Lily thought she might lunge for the dresser drawer, where Lily suspected a weapon might be hidden. Instead, Olivia straightened her shoulders, her expression cooling into practiced dignity. This is a misunderstanding that will be clarified once my attorney is present, she stated with forced composure. I've done nothing but provide devoted care to a man I love. We'll sort that out at the station, Officer Daniels replied, gesturing toward the door. Ms. Sinclair, please come with me. As Olivia was escorted from the room, she paused beside Lily, her voice dropping to a venomous whisper. You have no idea what you've done. This isn't over. Then she was gone, her elegant figure disappearing down the hallway with Officer Daniels, leaving behind a charged silence broken only by Ethan's shaky exhale. Is it really over? He asked, his voice betraying the emotional toll of the confrontation. The immediate danger, yes, Harrington assured him, resting a supportive hand on his shoulder. But there's much work ahead. Medical evaluation, legal proceedings to invalidate the fraudulent documents, forensic accounting to trace any misappropriated assets. Dr. Morgan was already on her phone, arranging for immediate medical transport. Mr. Mitchell, I'm recommending hospitalization for proper detoxification and evaluation. The withdrawal from these medications needs to be managed carefully." Ethan nodded wearily, the adrenaline of confrontation fading to reveal the physical toll of years of chemical manipulation. As medical personnel were summoned and arrangements made, his gaze found Lily, who had remained quietly near the doorway. "Lily," he called softly, "would you come here for a moment?" She approached hesitantly, aware of the professional bustle around them, as Harrington conferred with Chen and Dr. Morgan gave instructions to the arriving medical team. "You risked everything," Ethan said simply. "Your job, your safety." Why? The question echoed their earlier conversation, but now carried deeper significance. Lily considered her answer carefully. "Because it was right," she finally replied. "And because I saw something in you worth fighting for, even through the medication and the confusion, a strength that 5 years of her manipulation couldn't completely extinguish." Something shifted in Ethan's expression, a softening, a vulnerability he hadn't allowed himself to show before. "When I'm recovered," he said quietly, "I'd like to thank you properly if you're willing." Before Lily could respond, the medical team arrived to prepare Ethan for transport. As they worked efficiently around him, Harrington approached Lily. "Miss Carson, your actions were extraordinarily brave," the attorney acknowledged. "Without your intervention, Olivia's plan might have succeeded. Ethan would want me to ensure you and your mother are properly recognized for what you've done." "We were just doing what was right," Lily insisted, though the implications of the day's events were beginning to settle over her. Their jobs at Oakwood Manor were effectively over. Regardless of the outcome, the household would never be the same. As if reading her thoughts, Harrington continued, "I'll be overseeing Ethan's affairs while he recovers. The estate will need management, and loyal staff will be essential. I hope you and your mother will consider staying on." The offer was unexpected but welcome. "Thank you. I think we'd like that." As Ethan was carefully transferred to a stretcher, his gaze found Lily's once more, a silent exchange that held promises neither of them was ready to articulate. Then he was wheeled away, beginning the journey toward genuine recovery after years of artificial imprisonment. In the sudden quiet of the grand bedroom, Lily stood alone, the weight of the past weeks finally catching up with her. They had succeeded against seemingly impossible odds, exposing a scheme of breathtaking calculation and cruelty. Ethan was free. Olivia would face justice, and the truth had finally emerged from the shadows. Yet as she gazed around the opulent room that had been Ethan's beautiful prison, Lily knew this was not truly the end, but rather the beginning of something new. A chapter neither she nor Ethan could have anticipated when their paths first crossed in this very house just weeks ago. Outside, the ambulance departed down the long driveway, carrying Ethan toward proper medical care and the start of genuine healing. And somewhere in the distance, storm clouds gathered on the horizon, a fitting metaphor for the challenges that still lay ahead as they navigated the aftermath of Olivia's betrayal and the uncertain future that awaited them all. 6 months later, the gardens of Oakwood Manor burst with spring blossoms, a vibrant rebirth that mirrored the transformation of the estate itself. Gone was the oppressive silence that had permeated the mansion during Olivia's reign. In its place, a renewed energy flowed through the grand rooms and sprawling grounds. Lily walked along the garden path, clipboard in hand as she reviewed the final arrangements for the afternoon's gathering. After Ethan's hospitalization, Harrington had offered her a position managing the estate, a role she had grown into with natural ease over the intervening months. Under her guidance, Oakwood Manor had shed its prison-like atmosphere, becoming once again the warm, welcoming home it had been before Ethan's accident. "Everything looks perfect," Eleanor commented, joining her daughter on the terrace. Now head of the household staff, Eleanor had helped Lily transform the working environment, creating a team atmosphere built on respect rather than fear. The first guests should be arriving within the hour. Today marked a significant milestone, Ethan's official return to Oakwood Manor after months of intensive rehabilitation and recovery. The small reception would welcome him home while also serving as an informal reintroduction to the business associates and friends who had been systematically distanced during his years under Olivia's control. "Is the East Wing prepared?" Lily asked, checking items off her list. The wing had been completely renovated to accommodate Ethan's continued physical therapy needs while maximizing his independence. "Everything's ready," Eleanor confirmed. "The adjustable furniture, the modified bathroom, Even that high-tech voice-activated system he insisted on. Between the renovations and his progress in rehab, he should be able to navigate most of the house independently. Lily smiled, thinking of how far Ethan had come. After proper medical treatment and detoxification from the cocktail of sedatives and muscle relaxants Olivia had been administering, doctors discovered what she had long suspected. His condition, while serious, had never been as dire or permanent as Olivia had led everyone to believe. With the fog of medication lifted, Ethan had attacked his rehabilitation with the same determination that had built his technology empire. The man who had been told he would never walk again had defied all expectations, progressing from being bedbound to using a wheelchair with increasing independence, and eventually to standing and taking short steps with the assistance of specialized braces and supports. "Ms. Carson," Mrs. Thompson approached, her formal address belied by the warmth in her tone. "Mr. Harrington called. They're about 20 minutes away." "Thank you," Lily nodded, feeling a flutter of anticipation. Though she had visited Ethan regularly during his recovery, their interactions had occurred in the clinical environment of the rehabilitation center. Today would be different. His first day truly home, the beginning of a new chapter for them both. Their relationship had evolved cautiously over the past months, neither rushing to define what was growing between them. There had been long conversations during his hospital stays, laughter shared over his rehabilitation milestones, and quiet moments of connection as they each processed the trauma of Olivia's betrayal in their own ways. As Lily made her final preparations for the reception, her mind drifted to the legal aftermath of that fateful day 6 months ago. The evidence against Olivia had been overwhelming, her own journal providing the most damning testimony of her calculated scheme. Faced with multiple felony charges and the prospect of a lengthy prison sentence, she had accepted a plea agreement that would keep her incarcerated for at least 7 years, followed by strict probation. Dr. Whitaker had faced his own legal consequences, ultimately losing his medical license for his complicity in Olivia's plan. Investigations revealed he had been prescribing medications without proper monitoring, ignoring signs of deliberate overmedication, and falsifying medical records at Olivia's behest, all in exchange for substantial consulting fees deposited in an offshore account. The forensic accounting Harrington had initiated uncovered the full extent of Olivia's financial manipulations. Millions siphoned into hidden accounts, property purchased under shell companies, and a complex network of transactions designed to gradually transfer Ethan's considerable wealth into her control. Most had been recovered, though some assets remained entangled in ongoing legal proceedings. Yet despite the satisfaction of justice being served, the most meaningful outcome for Lily had been witnessing Ethan's remarkable recovery, not just physically, but emotionally and mentally as well. The brilliant, vibrant man that Olivia had nearly erased was re-emerging day by day, his natural charisma and sharp intellect undimmed by the years of chemical suppression. "They're here," called Jenkins, the groundskeeper, interrupting Lily's reflections. Through the ornate iron gates came a sleek black SUV, followed by Harrington's familiar sedan. As they approached the circular driveway, Lily smoothed her simple but elegant navy dress, a far cry from the housekeeper's uniform she had worn when she first met Ethan. The SUV came to a stop, and Harrington emerged first, followed by a specialized medical transport assistant. Together, they prepared Ethan's wheelchair at the vehicle's side door. Then, finally, Ethan himself appeared, and Lily's breath caught in her throat. He looked transformed from the pale, diminished figure she had first encountered. Months of proper nutrition, physical therapy, and freedom from unnecessary medication had restored his robust appearance. His dark hair was styled with deliberate casualness, his blue eyes clear and alert as they swept across the facade of his home. Dressed in a tailored navy blazer and crisp white shirt, he exuded the confidence and presence that had once made him a force in the business world. With practiced movements, he transferred from the vehicle to the wheelchair, not because he couldn't stand, but because the distance from the driveway to the house would have taxed his still recovering strength. His upper body strength had returned impressively, allowing him to maneuver the chair with ease as he approached the entrance where Lily waited. "Welcome home," she said simply, unable to keep the emotion from her voice. Ethan's smile, genuine and warm, transformed his face. "It's good to be back," he replied, then added more softly, "especially with you here." The moment held a weight of unspoken feeling before Harrington approached with necessary paperwork and last-minute details requiring Ethan's attention. As they moved into the house, Ethan paused in the entrance hall, taking in the subtle changes Lily had implemented during his absence. "You've been busy," he observed, noting the brighter color scheme, the rearranged furniture allowing for easier navigation, the art collection he'd once loved now prominently displayed after years in storage. "It feels like home again." "That was the goal," Lily acknowledged, "to make it feel like your home, not a medical facility or a museum." As the first guests began to arrive, business associates, medical professionals who had assisted in his recovery, and the handful of friends who had never quite believed Olivia's carefully constructed narrative of Ethan's decline, the mansion came alive with conversation and laughter. For many, it was their first glimpse of the new Ethan, alert, engaged, and increasingly mobile. Mid-afternoon, after greeting his guests and engaging in more social interaction than he had experienced in years, Ethan caught Lily's eye across the room and gestured subtly toward the terrace. Understanding his need for a moment's respite from the stimulation, she nodded and made her way outside. The spring air was cool but pleasant as Ethan joined her, maneuvering his wheelchair alongside the stone balustrade that overlooked the expansive gardens. "Overwhelming?" Lily asked gently. "A bit," he admitted. "After years of isolation, even friendly faces in abundance can be a lot." He gazed out at the grounds, expression thoughtful. "I never thought I'd be here again, truly here, present in my own life. There were moments during those years when I thought I was losing my mind, the confusion, the memory gaps. I began to believe Olivia's version of reality because I couldn't trust my own perceptions. That was by design," Lily reminded him. "The gaslighting, the isolation, the medication, all calculated to make you dependent on her interpretation of the world." Ethan nodded, then turned to face her directly. "Which makes what you did even more remarkable. You saw through it all with nothing but your observations and instincts to guide you. You risked everything for someone you barely knew." Lily shrugged slightly, still uncomfortable with being cast as heroic. "I just recognized something wasn't right. Anyone might have done the same, but they didn't," Ethan countered. "Dozens of people came through that house over the years. Staff, doctors, the occasional visitor Olivia couldn't deflect. No one questioned the narrative she created, or if they did, they were quickly removed. You were different." A comfortable silence fell between them, broken only by distant laughter from inside the house and the gentle rustling of new leaves in the garden below. "I have something for you," Ethan said finally, reaching into his jacket pocket. He withdrew a small velvet box and held it out to her. "Not what you might think," he added quickly, noting her startled expression. "We're not there yet, though I hope someday we might be. This is something else." Curious, Lily accepted the box and opened it to find an elegant key, fashioned in antique silver, attached to a slim leather fob. "It's beautiful," she said, "but what does it open?" Ethan smiled. "Nothing, actually. It's symbolic. During those years with Olivia, every door in my life was locked, literally and figuratively. My medical information, my business, even my own mind became spaces I couldn't freely access. She held all the keys." He gestured to the key in Lily's hand. "This represents the freedom you helped restore to me. My life is my own again, every door open because of your courage." Touched by the gesture and its meaning, Lily closed her fingers around the key. "Thank you. I'll treasure it." "There's more," Ethan continued. "Harrington finalized the paperwork this morning. I've established a foundation to support victims of elder abuse and exploitation, particularly cases involving medical manipulation. The board needs a director who understands these issues from the inside. I was hoping you might consider the position." Lily's eyes widened with surprise. "Me? But I don't have experience running a foundation." "You have something more valuable: first-hand understanding of how these situations develop, and the courage to intervene when others won't. You can learn the administrative aspects. What can't be taught is the passion and insight you already possess." The offer was unexpected but intriguing, a chance to help others in situations similar to what Ethan had endured. "I'd like to learn more about it," she said thoughtfully. "I was hoping you'd say that." Ethan's expression grew more serious. "Lily, I know we've been careful about defining our relationship these past months. There's been so much to process, so many changes for both of us. But I want you to know that whatever path we choose, professionally, personally, or both, I see you as my partner in this next chapter. You gave me back my life, and I'd like to spend it building something meaningful with you." The simple declaration carried more weight than elaborate protestations of love might have. It acknowledged their unique bond while respecting the complexity of their circumstances. "I'd like that too," Lily replied softly, "one day at a time." Their conversation was interrupted by Eleanor, who appeared at the terrace doorway. "I'm sorry to intrude, but your guests are asking for you, Mr. Mitchell. The caterers are ready to serve the main course." "Thank you, Eleanor. We'll be right in." As she withdrew, Ethan turned back to Lily with a smile. "Duty calls. Shall we?" As they returned to the gathering, Lily was struck by how naturally they moved together. His wheelchair beside her steady stride, a rhythm they had developed during his rehabilitation. There was something profoundly right about it. This partnership forged in the crucible of crisis and strengthened through recovery. The remainder of the reception unfolded with warmth and celebration. Ethan, despite his initial hesitation, seemed to draw energy from reconnecting with his wider circle. At one point, with the assistance of his physical therapist who was in attendance, he even demonstrated his progress by standing and taking several steps with specialized braces, an achievement that drew spontaneous applause from the assembled guests. As evening approached and the gathering began to wind down, Ethan addressed his guests briefly, thanking them for their support and expressing his gratitude to those who had helped him reclaim his life: medical professionals, legal advisors, loyal staff, and, with a meaningful glance toward Lily, those whose courage changed everything. Later, after the last guest had departed and the household had settled into evening routines, Lily found Ethan in his newly renovated study. He had transferred from his wheelchair to a comfortable armchair, a glass of scotch on the side table beside him, as he reviewed documents on a tablet. "Successful day?" she asked, pausing in the doorway. He looked up with a smile that still made her heart skip. "Beyond expectations, though I suspect I'll sleep for a week to recover from all that socializing." "You've earned the rest," she assured him, then hesitated. "I should let you get to it. I just wanted to check if you needed anything before I head home." Ethan set aside his tablet. "Actually, I was hoping you might join me for a nightcap. First evening back in my own home. Seems like an occasion worth marking." Lily accepted the invitation, settling into the chair opposite his as he poured her a small measure of the amber liquid. They sat in companionable silence for a moment, the crackling fire casting warm light across the room. "To new beginnings," Ethan offered, raising his glass. "And to freedom," Lily added, completing the toast. As they sipped their drinks, Lily's gaze was drawn to the wall behind Ethan's desk, where a simple silver key, identical to the one he had given her, had been mounted in an elegant frame. Beneath it, a small plaque bore a quote, "The truth will set you free." Ethan followed her gaze and nodded, a daily reminder of what matters most. In that quiet moment, surrounded by the peaceful security of Oakwood Manor, no longer a prison, but truly a home, Lily felt the final pieces of their extraordinary journey falling into place. The path forward would not be without challenges. Ethan's recovery would continue for months, perhaps years. The legal aftermath of Olivia's crimes would resurface periodically, and their own relationship would need time and space to develop naturally, without the pressure of their dramatic beginnings. Yet sitting across from this remarkable man who had fought his way back from the edge of oblivion, Lily felt a profound certainty that whatever came next, they would face it together. Partners in the truest sense, bound not by manipulation or control, but by mutual respect, shared purpose, and the beginning of a love built on the strongest foundation of all: truth. Outside, the last light of day painted the sky in hues of lavender and gold, casting long shadows across the gardens where new growth pushed steadily toward the sun. Within those ancient walls that had witnessed both the darkest deception and the most courageous truth, a new story was unfolding. One written not in the invisible ink of secrets and lies, but in the indelible mark of authenticity and hope. As Ethan reached across the space between them to take her hand, his touch warm and solid and real, Lily knew with absolute certainty that this was just the beginning of their story, a chapter opening on infinite possibilities, all of them free from